Let me just say this. I might do this, and I started having a brainstorm. I was thinking about this before. Future plans for a Confederate education center. In other words, you know how the Confederacy is being smeared with all this garbage, lies and stuff since they lost in 1865. And when you look at the Confederate Constitution, it's like, you know, it says a lot of different things. In other words, it says no omnibus bills. All spending bills have to be clearly set forth in a title what they're about. As a matter of fact, they were able to, states can impeach federal judges if 2/3 of each of the state body decides to impeach them for making rulings that are against the wishes of the state. So there are a lot more state powers. There was limits on infrastructure spending, which was one of the main issues. The big railroads were taking all the money out of the U.S. Treasury, which was mainly put into there by the Southern taxes on imports in exchange for cotton. So, you know, if you look at that Confederate Constitution, and there was also term limits on the presidency, there's a lot of different things in there that really display what the Confederacy was about. Actually, the Confederacy was very much in line with, you know, what the 1776 was about. And after 1865, everything changed for the worse, because we started becoming the United States of America Corporation, and D.C. was actually incorporated as a corporate entity in 1871. So a lot of the big money don't want to tell you what the real reason is why there was a movement for secession from the South. I know what the Articles of Secession state, but you know what? Those are false reasons. The real reason was economic, because the Corwin Amendment actually tells you about that, which was, you know, the Corwin Amendment was passed by the North after 7 southern states had already seceded, and the Corwin Amendment would have made it slavery 100% constitutionally protected by a constitutional amendment forever. But, you know, even so, the North was actually made slavery legal and acknowledged slavery as legal in 1850 with the Slave Fugitive Act and other acts that were passed prior. But the issues were really 110% independent economics, and the North needed the South to survive. In other words, the Mississippi was one, and the New Orleans port was extremely important. With the South seceding, all the goods coming down from the Great Lakes in Detroit, you know, whether there's a lot of that stuff was coming from the West, would be going through a foreign country. Now, obviously, there's arguments for keeping a union, and I can see there's a lot of arguments for keeping a union because, you know, divided we fall, and together we stand. You know, there's a strong argument for a union too. But what I was thinking about doing was keeping this place down here and having it as a, I want to see what we could be doing. You know, I'm going to start rolling this idea around at the CPA firm about making this a, you know, establishing my headquarters in North Georgia someplace, maybe Northeast Georgia or Northwest Georgia, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and still keeping a place up in Tennessee, which I'll probably put an off-grid cabin on, and having this place down here as a 501(c) education center, because Florida's getting inundated with Yankees, and we need to freaking educate them and make sure they understand what the South really stands for, and keep it Southern, because the longer we keep things Southern, the longer we keep our true constitutional individual rights that are embodied in each individual. You know, the smallest minority is the individual. That's the minority you got to protect. Each person needs to be respected. That's what really the game is. The powers hate this flag because basically it was against big government, big crony capitalism, the big banking system, and you know, it was an attempt to break away from that system. Actually, the Confederate Constitution, the way it was written, if you look at all the things that were in it, you know, the limits on infrastructure spending, that the Spending had to be clearly titled in each individual spending bill. There was no omnibus blanket spending bills. There's a lot more state rights with the impeachment of judges. The President of the United States had a lot more power to fire what I call government leeches that were left over from previous administrations. In other words, one of the problems we have today, which you call quote unquote the deep state, is really the entrenched bureaucracy. Now, I know Russia likes to criticize that, but Russia's got their own entrenched bureaucracy on that side too. But the Confederacy, although not perfect, was basically a move for Southern independence due to economic reasons, whereby they were being strangulated mainly on the import tariff in exchange for cotton exports. In effect, a tariff. In effect, a tariff on cotton, not a tariff on cotton directly, but a tariff on the exchange of goods for cotton at the point of sale, whereby the commodities were exchanged for overseas goods. So the Confederacy was actually trying to establish a free trade zone, which is kind of weird, but not in a globalist sense, but in the sense whereby it was just a nationalistic sense. Laissez-faire capitalism. Wasn't perfect, but nothing is. Nothing is. Actually, government can't provide a utopia. The only thing that can provide a utopia is individual efforts, and the individual efforts of people and their intercooperation of people. Nothing actually, no system provides a utopia. That's a mistake. That's where the collectivists are all freaking wrong. Actually, this flag stands against all forms of collectivism, whether it's communism, socialism, fascism, whatever ism you have out there, that whereby the state tells everybody else what to do and how to run the economy and redistributes wealth. Everybody does their own thing. And actually I can give you some examples of some people that are pretty famous. I don't know if you even know, I forgot the guy's name, but it's kind of really an off the wall example. But the guy that was the creator of the Charlie Brown and Peanuts caricatures, he was a failure in pretty much everything he did. He couldn't get a job with Disney doing graphics or anything like that. And he started making a character of Charlie Brown, which is basically him, where everything he did came out wrong. And you know what? People just loved it because everybody realizes everybody's got their own failures. So even a guy like that was almost a complete loser for most of his life, became a very famous cartoon artist. So, I mean, everybody's got their niche market. It's like the government's not going to find it for you. You're going to have to just find it yourself, God willing. And that's really what the hell it is. So, the government doesn't provide a utopia. People make their own utopia. It's, school of hard knocks. Eventually you figure it out. As a matter of fact, most of the crap I'm doing out here, I'm here doing stuff with JV Welding, structural rivets, repairing a desk chair. It came out pretty good. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but it worked out. Just about everything I learned was not really from a book so much, was just trial and error and cussing and, banging my finger once in a while. You can see my thumb there. It's just the way it is. Government's not going to freaking save our asses altogether. So I was thinking about, probably keeping this place. If I could keep this place, because I got a lot invested in here. And as a 501(c), where I'm not going to have to pay all these taxes and stuff because I'm an out-of-state resident. And, with all the stuff I got on the property right now, it pretty much can suffice as a Confederate Heritage Center as it is, and I also have the, maybe a couple more doodads. I also have the Sons of Confederate Veterans placard over here on the fence. So, that's kind of a novel idea. And, what the hell? And of course, we got Boots the Confederate Cat out there with 1 General Lee Drive. It's his little house, Boots the Confederate Cat. Of course, we like him. So, that could be a future plan. I'm going to roll this idea around because, this way I got the southern border, which is north central Florida. I'll have North Georgia, and I'll have the northern Confederate border, which is northeast Tennessee. Well, it's close to the northern border, the old Confederacy. So we'll have the triad, so to speak, and with the base in Georgia. That might be a plan. We shall see.